The divine battle of Abraham, 10,000 giants exposed as God reveals his transforming plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the tumult of war echoed across the hills of Canaan. A dark shadow loomed. 10,000 giants roamed the land, descendants of the Nephilim, spirits steeped in terror, mighty and fearsome. Among the men who walked the rugged hills was Abraham, a shepherd chosen by the Lord, whose heart bore the weight of fear, yet remained anchored in faith. He had just received the covenant promises from God, yet now faced the alarming fate of his beloved nephew, Lot, captured amidst the bitter conflict between kings. As he stood upon the rocky crags, his breath steadied by prayer, Abraham felt the turmoil rising. Blood oaths and honor bound the warriors of his kin, their destinies entwined. Though just a shepherd of flocks, he called upon the trained men, those who had grown under his stewardship. "Brothers," he urged, "let us rally our courage. The Lord shall protect us, for this battle is not ours alone." Their faces, etched with determination, mirrored his resolve. Night fell heavy, wrapping the men in darkness, each wrestling with doubts and fears of the darkness they must confront. Shivers clawed at their spines as flesh and bone trembled in the face of giants. Desperate for reassurance, Abraham withdrew to a secluded ridge, seeking solace overlooking the plains that cradled the promise of his inheritance. With hands raised to the heavens, his voice pierced the silence. "O Lord, give me strength. Shall I deliver what is lost?" Then, in that moment, the air thickened, and the holy presence enveloped him. "Fear not, Abram," the voice rang out, soothing his trembling heart. "I am your shield, your reward shall be very great." The shadows of giants dimmed in Abraham's spirit, as visions unfurled before him. Strategies and wisdom flowed as torrents, revealing divine fortitude amid earthly strife. Dawn broke, bathing the land in splendor, a fiery sun illuminating their path as Abraham led his men into the fray. Climbing down from the ridge, their humble garments waved in the morning breeze, but it was faith that armored them against adversity. They arrived at the encampment, where darkness thickened, despair suffocating the very air. As the ground trembled beneath mighty footsteps, Abraham raised his staff high, invoking the name of the God who had promised him a lineage as numerous as the stars. Though the giants stood formidable, confusion erupted within their ranks as the Lord entered the fray with his chosen. Panic seized the darkened foes, leading them to turn on themselves, the terror they wielded now consuming them. Amidst clashing swords and triumphant shouts, victory echoed through the valley, the thunderous proclamation of God's unwavering love. This battle, once a trial of flesh and bone, transformed into a testament of divine intervention where faith triumphed over fear. And yet, in the aftermath of victory, Abraham pondered a lingering question: what greater purpose was God weaving through this confrontation? What legacy awaited him on the horizon? The promise still in motion beckoned a deeper understanding, unveiling a path that connected the chosen ones to the absolute sovereignty of God. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the dust settled on the battlefield, each breath whispered in awe of how God's hand had guided the victory. This confrontation held hints of divine revelation, calling Abraham deeper into his faith. The struggle of man against the floods of darkness transformed not merely into a story of triumph, but a deeper unfolding of God's will, a legacy that would reach far beyond this moment, beckoning the hearts of the faithful to witness the greater design in motion. The journey had only just begun. And it came to pass after the battle had waned and silence descended upon the valley that Abraham sought the face of the Lord anew. With the sun overhead, he sat weary yet grateful, attributing all glory to the God who had fought for him. His heart, though brimming with joy, wrestled with the remnants of uncertainty that loomed like distant thunder, for he understood that victory was but the beginning, a precursor to divine plans yet unfolding. As he gathered the remnants of his men, he reflected on the unexpected chaos that had enveloped their enemies. What spirit moved amongst us today, he pondered aloud to his companions, whose faces still bore the marks of fear and newfound courage. It was not our might but the hand of God that brought confusion upon the giants. Among the men, there was one named Eshcol, a valiant warrior whose heart had been strengthened by the battle. "My lord, surely there are more trials ahead," he declared, wiping the sweat from his brow. "The enemies we faced were fierce, yet unseen forces may yet threaten our kin. We must prepare for what is to come." But Abraham, filled with fervor, raised his voice, "Let us not dwell on fear. For it is written, the Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." Exodus 14 verse 14. We have seen today the power of faith in action, and it shall encircle us like a shield. Just then, amidst their spoken resolve, a shadow crossed over them. A figure approached from the east, garbed in flowing robes, his countenance illuminating the dimming light of day. It was Melchizedek, king of Salem and priest of God Most High. The men stood in hushed amazement, for they recognized him as a bearer of profound blessings. Melchizedek approached Abraham, and as he drew near, he held bread and wine, presenting them as offerings of peace amidst the aftermath of death. "Blessed be Abram of God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth," he proclaimed, and a hush fell over the assembly. "And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." Abraham, humbled, knelt before the king-priest, recognizing the divine appointment of this moment. "I give you a tithe of all," he replied, presenting a portion of the spoils obtained through the Lord's favor. Then, Melchizedek prophesied, "Understand that through this day, a covenant is being deepened. From your lineage shall arise a great nation, and the very zeal of the Lord shall be upon them. They shall be the avenue through which the world is blessed, and the giants you have vanquished are but a shadow of greater battles that will come." Hearing these words from the mouth of the priest, Abraham's heart soared. The promise of his heir, the lineage foretold, glimmered brighter now than ever before in his spirit. Yet, as night fell, uncertainty still lingered among the stars above, and in the silence of his heart, Abraham knew that the giants of Canaan were not his only opposition. There were giants of doubt, distrust, and the weight of legacy to face. With this victory in the bank, he recognized a new beginning, the pathway to a lineage entwined with courage, mercy, and unbreakable covenant. As he gazed into the heavens, pondering the deep current of God's sovereign plan, he sensed that the night was not yet complete. "O Lord," he whispered again, the weight of purpose resting heavily upon him, "what more shall come forth from this day? What greater plans do you hold for us in the days yet unseen?" And in the stillness that followed, the winds carried a promise that echoed down through the annals of time: "The time for the fulfillment of all that is written has not yet come, but I am weaving a tapestry whose brilliance shall illuminate the hearts of generations." Thus, the journey continued, and the calling of Abraham became a beacon, not just for himself, but for all who would seek the unsearchable depths of God's sovereign plan. And it came to pass, after the shadow of night had fully settled upon the land, that Abraham arose from his place of prayer, his heart aflame with the echoes of Melchizedek's blessing. He called forth his men, whose spirits were rekindled by the celebratory air that surrounded the king-priest. "Brothers," Abraham spoke with authority, "the Lord has given us victory, but our journey is not yet complete. We must be vigilant, for there are greater challenges ahead." The men gathered round him, their eyes reflecting a mix of hope and trepidation. "What is our path, my lord?" Eshcol inquired, his brow furrowed with concern yet emboldened by faith. "How do we prepare for foes that remain hidden?" Abraham, with a firm gaze directed to the heavens, declared, "We shall seek the Lord's guidance and find strength in unity. Let us gather offerings and invoke the name of the Most High, for he is our shield and our sword." Thus, they prepared to offer sacrifices, knowing that communion with God would fortify them for what lay ahead. As dawn broke and the first light pierced the darkness, an overwhelming sense of purpose enveloped the camp. The fragrance of burnt offerings rose as a sweet aroma before the Lord. Abraham, lifting his eyes once more, took hold of the promises spoken in the quiet of the night. "O Lord, deliver us from future threats, and may your light guide our path," he prayed fervently, his voice trembling with urgency. Lo, as Abraham prayed, the ground beneath him trembled, and a great wind swept across the valley. Clouds gathered, darker and heavier than before, as if the very heavens were in response to his plea. In that moment, a specter of fear took hold of the hearts of the men. They looked at one another, their breaths quickening. "What is this?" one called out, retreating instinctively. They knew not if this was a sign of judgment or merely nature's wrath. Abraham, resolute, raised his staff high. "Fear not. For our God is with us." His voice rang clear, drowning the whispers of doubt that swirled among them. Then he turned his ear toward the clouds and spoke, "Lord, if this is your hand at work, reveal to us the greater purpose behind this tempest." Suddenly, the wind ceased, and a silence fell over the camp. In the hushed stillness, a figure emerged from the storm, a mighty angel, robed in garments of light. His countenance shone like the brilliance of the morning star, and he bore within him the weight of divine authority. "Abram," he spoke with a voice like thunder, yet gentle as a whisper, "you have been chosen not only to lead your kin but to become a father of nations. The giants you have defeated are but a test of your faith. Greater powers shall seek to thwart the promise set before you, but rise and stand firm. For I come to assure you that your descendants shall inherit this land, and through them, the world shall know the kindness of the Lord." The angel's declaration echoed in the hearts of the assembled men, igniting a flame of courage that surged through their spirits. "Do not falter in your quest, for I will be your protector, and the giants of the earth will bow before the lineage of faith." As the celestial being vanished, a mighty roar of joy erupted from the men of Abraham, filling the valley with praises unto the Most High. They rejoiced, for now they understood that trials ahead would only serve to deepen their purpose. Yet, within Abraham's heart, a new wave of questions surged. He stood still as the echoes of the angel's words resonated within him. What shall be the test that precedes such glory? What tribulations must we endure to embrace the fullness of your promise? The winds answered him with a gentle rustle, a reminder that though the path is laden with giants, the hand of God remains unshakable. Thus, Abraham turned back to his men, the fire of resolve igniting anew within him. "Let us advance with courage, for triumphs await us, and through this journey, the world will witness the unfolding of God's sovereign plan." And as they prepared to set forth, a whisper humbled the air around them, but what they did not yet understand were the unseen giants that would rise in the days to come, shaping the course of generations yet unborn. And it came to pass as Abraham and his men began their journey, the sun ascended, bathing the land in a golden hue. The way before them gleamed with promise, yet an unforeseen weight lay heavy upon Abraham's heart, for the angel's words echoed persistently, the giants yet unknown loomed on the horizon of his spirit. As they traversed the rugged terrain, the sounds of nature danced lightly upon the air, but in the very depths of his soul, Abraham felt an unsettling silence that whispered of impending trials. He led his men onward with steadfastness, but his thoughts directed constantly to the covenant made with the Lord. "Will my faith withstand the storm that is to come?" he pondered, catching glimpses of the shadows moving along the hillsides. Days passed, filled with arduous labor and prayer, the men engaging in the rites of purification and reflection. Each evening, they gathered as a family, breaking bread and recalling the mighty victory they had secured. "Remember, brothers," Eshcol would often say, "we are not just reclaiming the bounty of the land, we are laying claim to a promise given by the Lord." But while the fellowship strengthened their bonds, the restlessness within Abraham remained. On one such evening, as twilight settled over the camp, he withdrew, seeking solitude beneath the vast canopy of stars. He lifted his face to the heavens, "O Lord, guide me through the unknown. For what purpose have you chosen me, if not to face the giants ahead? Let your presence abide with us." As if in response, a sound like distant thunder rolled across the sky, and Abraham's heart quickened. He turned and beheld a strange luminescence gleaming upon the horizon. Fear mingled with awe as he approached, aware that God often spoke through the extraordinary. At that moment, the ground trembled again, and a great multitude of figures emerged from the shadows, 10,000 warriors clad in shining armor, their faces unseen, yet the aura of hostility surrounded them. They bore no weapons of man but carried the countenance of wrath, and a dread seized the beating hearts of those gathered. Abraham, undeterred, called forth his men. "Behold, the giants have arisen to confront us. Stand firm, for we shall not meet them with swords but with the faith given unto us by our God. Let us remember the words of the angel." With renewed resolve, they encircled their leader, and Abraham raised his staff high, proclaiming, "For the battle belongs to the Lord. He is our refuge and strength, a very present help in our time of trouble." As they prepared for what was to come, the very air trembled and a deep voice resonated through the valley, "Fear not, for I am with you. The giants shall not prevail, for I have marked this land as a heritage for you." The sight of the multitude drawing closer only deepened their conviction. They fell to their knees, cries of dependence and faith lifting towards the heavens, uniting in spirit and pleading for divine intervention. Abraham sensed a stirring within, for the roar of the invisible army grew steadily louder, a testament to the battle between heaven and earth. Then, with a shattering brilliance that pierced the darkness, a lightning bolt struck earthward, marking the ground where the armies of God assembled. The air crackled with divine authority, as Abraham rose with the promise of victory ignited in his heart. But just then, a whisper of mystery curled through the tumult of their resolve, reminding them, what they did not yet perceive was that this conflict would unveil not just the giants before them, but the giants within their hearts, calling them to discover the fullness of God's powerful sovereignty. And it came to pass that, with words of heavenly assurance still resonating in their hearts, Abraham and his men rose from their knees, emboldened by the voice of the Almighty. They looked upon the advancing multitude, their hearts steeled against the terror that sought to consume them. "Let our spirits be as one," Abraham urged, sensing a divine fortitude rising within. Suddenly, the expanse before them darkened, and the shimmer of armored forms flickered like distant stars, a testament to the supernatural confrontation unfolding. Abraham keenly understood that this was not merely a battle of swords but an encounter laden with spiritual significance. With staff in hand and resolve deep within, he stepped forward, the weighty presence of the Almighty compelling him. "O Lord of hosts," he cried, "you are the God who goes before us. Confound our enemies, that they may know you are the source of our strength." At his words, a mighty wind swirled around them, the breath of God sweeping through the valley. The champions of darkness surged forth, their shouts echoing like a tempest. Yet, Abraham stood resolute, his heart a bastion of faith. "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" He proclaimed, invoking the scriptures deep within him, as the very earth trembled at the mention of God's name. "Now, brothers, let us advance," he declared, and like warriors of light ignited by purpose, they stepped forward, a united front against the oncoming horde. Because as the army of the unseen drew closer, a voice whispered through the harried chaos, the voice of the Spirit of the Lord, a gentle yet powerful reminder, "The battle is not yours, it is mine." A great tumult arose, the air thick with the anticipation of conflict, yet it was met with the sound of prayer, a chorus of petitions rising like incense before the throne of grace. Each man, putting on the full armor of God, held steadfast in heart and soul, knowing that their offensive was one of faith, while the Lord himself would wield the sword of divine judgment. As the two forces met, the ground shook with primal fury. Abraham beheld visions of glory and terror intertwined. The silhouettes of giants upon giants swirled in the fray, yet amidst the clashing chaos, he noticed something wondrous. Many of the armored foes paused, as if struck by an incalculable force. They hesitated, uncertainty looming over their intentions. In that pivotal moment, a surging realization gripped Abraham's heart. This conflict was birthed not solely from the foes before him but rather from the very struggles each warrior harbored within. The giants outside echoed the giants within. Fear, doubt, and despair had risen to combat the faith ignited in their souls. "Fear not, for even now, the giants within you fall," Abraham roared, his voice carrying the power of the assembling army of heaven. "Claim your freedom. For the Lord has promised that he shall be our deliverance." And lo, as they pressed forward, the shimmering realm surrounding them shimmered anew, revealing a world unseen where praises would extinguish the darkness, where giants left unchallenged would be slain at the feet of worship. It was then that the shout of triumph filled the air, as members of the vast host began to retreat, fear painted stark upon their faces. For the angels on high, led by the command of the Almighty, cleaved through the darkness, shrouding the faithful with protection. Yet, amidst the victory, the question burned in the collective spirit of the men: how deep were these giants woven into the fabric of their hearts, and what truths must be uncovered within to bring forth complete victory. In that moment, the heavens echoed, "For to those who seek, a greater revelation of my purpose awaits." Thus, the battle waged on, transmuting not only the external but revealing the deeper trials within, for the Lord, in his mysterious wisdom, was unveiling a sovereign plan far greater than any had dared to imagine. And it came to pass that, as the warriors of Abraham surged forward, the tumult of battle echoed throughout the valley. Each man moved with a fierce resolve, their hearts ignited by the promise of the Almighty, who fought for them. The ground trembled beneath their feet as they pressed onward, emboldened by faith, yet beneath that boldness lay a profound reverence for the mission given to them. In the fray, Abraham's spirit soared. He beheld the rapid movements of light and darkness, the clash of despair and hope. He understood then, with divine clarity, that this was a pivotal moment of revelation. Entrusting their fate into God's hands, he gathered his men and spoke loudly above the din of chaos. "Brothers, remember that our God is a fortress, a refuge in the time of storm. With him, we are more than conquerors." As they advanced, the chariots of darkness attempted to encircle them, yet the faithful remained undeterred, for each step resonated with the promises spoken to Abraham. "For I know the plans I have for you," the Lord had assured him, "plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Amidst the roiling shadows, Abraham caught sight of a great commander among the enemy forces, shrouded in darkness yet with an imposing presence. He was a giant among giants, radiating malice yet veiled with an air of confidence. Abraham felt a stirring in his spirit, for he recognized that the battle was not merely against flesh and blood but against forces unseen that manipulated the hearts of men. "Strike at their leader!" Abraham called out, galvanizing his men to focus their energies on the heart of the foe. As they pressed in on the dark commander, a terrible cry erupted from the multitude. This cry was not just one of fear but an awakening of the much deeper terror that resided in the hearts of men: the fear of abandonment, the fear of failure, and the fear of being known. "Fear not!" Abraham shouted again, like a beacon in the night. "For we do not fight alone. The Lord goes before us and stands beside us." He lifted his staff high, and in that act of worship, the very heavens seemed to reverberate in response. A radiant light, as bright as the sun, pierced through the darkness, illuminating the battlefield and scattering the enemies like chaff in the wind. The shadows quaked and trembled in the light of revelation, and with each cry of faith from the men of Abraham, the giants faltered. The unseen battles waged within their hearts began to manifest as the men confronted their fears, letting go of doubt and despair. The invisible walls built around their spirits fell as each heart aligned closer with the whisper of God's purpose: "You are my chosen, I will not forsake you." Isaiah 41 verse 10. As the dark commander recoiled in anguish, Abraham sensed the truth of God's sovereign plan unfolding before him. "For every battle fought without is a battle fought within," he proclaimed, understanding that each giant faced outside was but a reflection of the giants that once dominated their spirits. Yet, just as victory seemed assured, a chilling realization fell upon Abraham. Though the foes before them were retreating, unseen forces were still hidden in the recesses of their hearts, waiting for the moment of triumph to strike. In that moment, the heavens resounded with an echoing promise: "For as you uncover the giants within, a greater revelation shall be unveiled, an invitation to deeper transformation awaits." Thus, as the clash of darkness yielded to the brilliance of faith, a new chapter in God's divine strategy began to unfold, calling each man toward an awakening not yet seen. The path to freedom lay before them, yet the mysteries of divine purpose stirred deeply within, beckoning them onward into the unknown. And it came to pass that, amid the chaos of battle, Abraham stood firm, feeling the weight of destiny tugging at the fabric of his soul. As the warriors rallied around him, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of hope, he sensed that their struggle was poised at the intersection of the seen and the unseen. "Behold!" Abraham cried, raising his staff once more. "Our God has not forgotten his covenant. For the Lord himself shall lead us, guiding our hands as we face the darkness that surrounds us." With renewed fervor, he urged them onward, their steps echoing like thunder across the valley, a testament to the burgeoning faith within. But lo! The dark commander, a shadowy figure of malevolence, reeled from the brightness that exposed his cowardice. With a voice that boomed like thunder, he called to his men, "Return, my warriors. Stand your ground. For I shall not let this band of fools dissolve the might of our dominion." His eyes burned with fury as he rallied his troops. Yet as the enemy hardened their resolve, a stillness fell over Abraham and his men, a divine pause that lingered in the air. The whispers of the Almighty unfurled into their spirits, reminding them of the truths that shaped their existence. "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him," Romans 8 verse 28. They felt it, a surge of conviction igniting their hearts as they prepared for the next wave of battle. The air crackled as the clash resumed, two forces colliding with an intensity that sent tremors through the earth. Abraham felt the swell of divine energy, as if heaven itself joined the fray. With every strike, he shouted, "Remember the promise spoken, the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them, he delivers them from all their troubles." Psalm 34 verse 17. Each warrior seized upon the words, their minds and hearts ignited with the truth of God's protection. As the skirmish continued, whispers of doubt crept into the minds of the men. They began to fear that they battled not just a physical foe, but the very doubts and insecurities within their own hearts. Abraham, sensing their troubling thoughts, turned his gaze to the heavens. "O Lord," he beseeched, "help us to see beyond this flesh and blood, to fathom the deep transformation you are bringing to light." And so, like angels on the wind, a rustle of divine presence swept through them. They recalled the words of Isaiah, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you, I have summoned you by name, you are mine," Isaiah 43 verse 1. The memory of their individual callings ignited a robust solidarity. They were not simply fighting for survival but for the truth that binds them to their God and to one another. Suddenly, in the midst of the turmoil, a voice rang out, bold and clear. An unexpected messenger from the backlands appeared, showcasing an army of light that descended from the heavens. It was a host of angels, brilliant and unlike anything they had ever seen, their presence electrifying the battlefield. "We come to assist you," they proclaimed. "Your struggle is known in the courts of heaven." With renewed vigor, Abraham and his warriors fell upon the enemy as the legion of light intermingled with their efforts. The ground trembled further, not merely from their charge against darkness but as the very manifestations of eons of prophecies were unfolding before their very eyes. And in that moment of fierce battle intertwined with divine intervention, the dark commander, witnessing his demise at the hands of not just mere men but through the orchestration of heavenly hosts, unleashed an anguished wail. "No! This cannot be! You shall not conquer us!" Yet, as despair painted his voice, the bold assertion of the faithful continued unabated. As the enemy forces began to break ranks and flee in terror, an unsettling realization settled among the men of Abraham. They had been called to not just conquer the battlefield but to triumph over the giants of fear and doubt that lingered deep within their souls. And thus, in that hour of fierce contention, a new invitation stirred forth a beckoning echo from the divine that reverberated beyond the fray. "For as you grasp this truth, a profound revelation awaits. Your deepest scars shall become the heralds of my brightest glory." The seeds of a greater purpose were being sown, a call to a transformation more powerful than they could fathom, leading them toward a destiny laden with divine promise yet shrouded in mystery. And it came to pass, as the cries of victory and defeat echoed across the valley, that Abraham, weary yet steadfast, raised his eyes to the heavens. The host of angels surrounded him, their countenance radiant with the glory of the Most High. It was a sight that spurred him onward, for he felt the very pulse of heaven in his chest, urging him toward understanding deeper still. "Look! He proclaimed to his warriors. The Lord has given us a sign. For not only are we victors today in battle, but we shall emerge as a beacon of hope for generations to come. The hearts of the men swelled with pride and purpose. They were no longer merely defenders of their physical realm, but bearers of a truth that could not be extinguished. Yet within the shadows, the dark commander, though retreating, plotted his vengeance. This is not the end, he seethed, rallying the remnants of his fallen warriors. They may have won this day, but the battle for their souls is far from over. A chilling dread settled within his heart as he realized that the strength of their adversary lay not just in steel blades, but in an unyielding faith. Meanwhile, fully aware of the adversary's schemes, Abraham gathered his men. Brothers, we must not grow complacent. The foe we face dwells not in the flesh alone, but in the very thoughts that tempt us to despair. As he spoke, the words of the psalmist permeated the air, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you," Psalm 56 verse 3. Each soldier nodded, for they recognized that their battle was one of faith as much as of arms. Those assembled could sense the lingering feel of the battle's fervor, the air charged with electricity that whispered of future trials and triumphs. "Let us not forget the Lord's command," Abraham continued. "We have victory today because we are his chosen. He declares, 'See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it?'" Isaiah 43 verse 19. With every proclamation, hope blossomed like flowers emerging from the barren soil. As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of crimson and gold, Abraham led his people in prayer, their voices rising in unison, "O Lord Almighty, strengthen our resolve. Bind our hearts in your covenant, that we may endure the trials to come." As the words ascended, an unseen force wrapped around them, a holy promise that their labor would bear fruit. Amidst their supplication, the spirits of those who had fought bravely surged within the warriors. They began to share tales of past victories and divine interventions, stories that connected their blood-stained history to the Almighty's sovereign hand. The echoes of their ancestors reverberated through their minds, reminding them of the covenant established long ago with their forefather Abraham, a covenant sealed by faith, promising a lineage blessed beyond measure. Then, as evening enveloped the valley, a cloud of glory descended, encircling them with a presence that creased the atmosphere with reverence. The voice of the Lord resonated softly, yet powerfully, "Fear not, for I am with you, I will bring your offspring from the east and gather you from the west," Isaiah 43 verse 5. The men fell to their knees, astonished by the closeness of God in their midst. In that sacred moment, the weight of destiny revealed itself. Abraham understood that the unfolding narrative was not merely about military conquest, but the preparation of hearts to bear witness to the miraculous. The struggles we face are merely a canvas for the greater masterpiece God is crafting, he declared, filled with newfound inspiration. As the day drew to a close, a secret lingered in the air, a divine mystery held in the heart of God, awaiting its unveiling. What magnificent plans were still hidden from their eyes? In unity, they sought the Lord, ambitions ignited but yearning for divine clarity, aware that the battle was far from over. Only in surrender would the fullness of God's purpose be unveiled, "For I know the plans I have for you," declared the Lord, "plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. The true journey lay ahead, entwined with the threads of divine intention, waiting to be revealed. And it came to pass, with the dawn of a new day breaking upon the horizon, that Abraham gathered his men once more. The glory of the night remained etched in their hearts, yet the air carried an unsettling whisper. Abraham, sensing the turmoil within, lifted his gaze once more toward the heavens as he sought guidance from the Lord. "Brothers," he spoke, his voice steady but filled with holy urgency, "we must prepare. For though we triumphed in battle, the enemy will rise again like a storm upon the sea. Beware lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled." Hebrews 12 verse 15. Each soldier nodded in acknowledgement, feeling the gravity of their calling as guardians of faith. As they assembled for their daily tasks, they became increasingly aware of an unseen presence. The whisper of uncertainty crept into their hearts, and whispers of doubt threatened to unravel their unity. They began to share visions of the dark commander's return, with stories of his malice echoing against the stones of the valley. But Abraham, filled with the Holy Spirit, called them to seek the Lord together through prayer and fasting. Then you will call upon me, and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. Jeremiah 29 verse 12, he reminded them. With their hearts knit together in divine purpose, they prayed under the rising sun. The sound of their collective supplication built a wall of faith around them, protecting their spirits against the specter of dread lingering in the atmosphere. As they prayed, a radiant light encircled them, revealing the depths of God's plan for their journey ahead. Suddenly, a tremor coursed through the ground, and the clouds darkened ominously. The soldiers looked to Abraham, their eyes wide with fear, but he raised a hand to calm them. "Do not fear," he bellowed. "Our God has spoken, and his word cannot return void. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me?" Jeremiah 32 verse 27. At these words, courage ignited in each heart like a beacon in the tempest. But even as Abraham spoke of faith, the dark commander watched from the shadows, seeking to exploit the fears of the warriors. He gathered new recruits from the wilderness, those who had tasted defeat and knew only bitterness. "Look at them," he hissed to his gathered host. "They are nearly at the breaking point. There lies the path to their destruction." His plans were as insidious as the serpent in the garden, enticing many to join his wicked cause. Before Abraham could discern the breadth of the commander's plotting, the Lord spoke again. Like a river, the voice flowed through him and among the men, "You shall be my witnesses, my instruments of grace. And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies." Romans 8 verse 11. The words resonated, encrypting hope in their hearts, a promise that they were made for more than the battles in this world. They would carry the glory of God beyond the horizon, beckoning others toward the path of salvation. As sunlight pierced through the darkness above, a divine engagement ignited visions of nations yet to be awakened by the truth they bore. Yet under the mantle of victory, an undercurrent of trepidation braided into their hearts. They understood, in that moment of commissioning, that the battle was not only against flesh and blood but against the principalities of spiritual darkness. The journey before them was yet unknown, shrouded in mystery that only the Lord could unveil. Abraham knelt once more, seeking divine wisdom. "What is our next step, O Lord?" he begged. And even as he prayed, an answer stirred in the silence, a whisper that revealed that God's sovereign purpose was just beginning to unfold. The shadow of the adversary still loomed, and the true test of their faith would soon emerge. For who could foresee the grand design woven through every trial? In that moment of unity and anticipation, the foundations of their hearts trembled. With the truth that the battle lay not only ahead but also within. The promise of God echoed in their spirits, fortifying them for the trials to come, declaring, "For I have chosen you for this very time, to reveal my glory in the midst of the storm." What depths of his plan remained hidden, waiting eagerly for the appointed hour of revelation. And it came to pass that, in the days following their victory, Abraham and his men continued to seek the face of the Lord. They understood now that the struggles they had faced were but shadows cast by the giants lurking within their own hearts. As the sun brightened the sky above them, a spiritual clarity began to settle amidst the renewed bond of brotherhood. Abraham gathered the warriors, drawing them near with earnestness reflected in his eyes. "Brothers," he declared with a voice that resonated like thunder, "we have seen the faithfulness of our God in our triumphant battle. But now we must venture deeper into his purpose. The true conquest is not merely over flesh and blood but over the fears, doubts, and giants that live within us. Let us rend our hearts to the Lord and cleanse our spirits before him, for only then shall we fully embrace the victory promised." Around him, the men nodded in fervent agreement, their spirits ignited. They understood the significance of the journey ahead and gathered near the river to lay their burdens before the Lord. As they descended to the dark waters, once a symbol of foreboding, felt like a divine invitation. Let us wash ourselves anew, Abraham instructed. For it is written, Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me, Psalm 51 verse 10. The words echoed through the assembly as each soldier dipped their hands into the river, and consequently, a wave of reconciliation washed over them all. In that moment of collective surrender, Abraham felt the palpable whisper of the Holy Spirit guiding him anew. The Lord is preparing us for the next great revelation. Lift your eyes, for the giants you thought defeated may yet seek to consume you again, but you shall rise through the power of the Almighty, he affirmed as he raised his arms toward the heavens. The men emerged from the waters, transformed from within, emboldened not merely by the victory over the giants who roamed the hills but over the doubt that fiercely clung to their hearts. Energized by their faith, they sought the counsel of the Lord together fervently in prayer. As they prayed, the atmosphere shifted, a holy hush enveloping the camp. Words of prophecy began to resonate through their midst, a promise freshly spoken, infusing the air with the fragrance of divine destiny. The remnant of faith shall be mighty upon the earth, for I am calling you to rise as a banner of hope, a voice proclaimed, steeped in authority. Through you, shall salvation flow to the nations and the giants within cast into eternal darkness by the light of my glory. Humbled, the men listened in reverence, their hearts intertwining with the threads of an unfolding tapestry stitched by God's own hand. With renewed resolve, they knelt once more. Each heart resonated with promises unbroken, with destinies intertwined. Lord, they cried in unison, lead us forth. For we have tasted your goodness, and we desire to see your name glorified unto the ends of the earth. And days passed, and the voices of their prayers echoing amongst the mountains captured the hearts of those who would soon come seeking the Lord at their doorstep. Within their midst, as moments fell like leaves from an autumn tree, a sense of anticipation deepened, a stirring reminding them of the dark commander's lurking presence on the edges, rallying forces to undermine their newfound courage. But Abraham, filled with the peace that surpasses all understanding, gathered the warriors once more. Fear not. For every giant that rises before us has been already defeated in your hearts. Remember the promise, no weapon forged against you will prevail, Isaiah 54 verse 17. His voice like a trumpet blared over the billowing winds, fanning the flame of faith within each heart. And so, they ventured forth, now fortified not only by victory but by the profound trust in God's promises. They marched onward into territories unseen, hearts united, resolute in their mission to proclaim truth, righteousness, and grace to a world hungering and lost. But lo, behind them, shadows stirred, remnants of the dark commander presiding over fear and doubt, determined to disrupt their course. As the sun set on that decisive day, a chill blustered in the air, as fallen winds whispered of an impending storm, a storm of resistance that would soon test them once more. Yet, undeterred, Abraham lifted his staff high against the horizon. We have drawn our strength from him who is above all. Go forth, my brothers, for the giants will cower at the sound of the praises of our Almighty. And as the night cloaked the earth, their footsteps echoed into the unknown, spirits renewed for the calls yet to come. It was not the end but the beginning of a magnificent evolution where through tribulations, they would witness the unveilment of destiny orchestrated by the divine hand, securing the promise of their covenant, the lineage that would one day change the world forever. Thus, the journey of Abraham unfolded towards the culmination of glorious destiny, a legacy where faith, courage, and the love of the Almighty would drive away the darkness. And it is for you, dear friend, to consider this truth. The giants in your own life may loom large, but remember, with faith, prayer, and unity, you can triumph over any challenge that stands before you. Seek the Lord today and trust in His sovereign plan. If this story resonates within your spirit, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's truth. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and I invite you to comment your reflections and how this biblical tale impacts your faith journey. Together, let us walk in the light of His promise, for each battle leads us closer to His glory.